Welcome back to West Texas View.
Before the break, we were talking about some of the relationship information that between a doctor and a patient, and how important it is to form this relationship. But once you begin examining and have a patient on a regular basis, one of the things that you're really looking for is future diseases like signs of cervical cancer or breast cancer or some of the other things that have horrible impacts on a family. And so talk about changing medicine and how when you discover this, what happens?
Well, we know so much more about cervical cancer than we used to. Even since I've been a medical student, we know that it's related to human papillomavirus, and because we know that, we're able to actually do pap smears less. So for those of you who are afraid of it,
Yes.
if your pap smears are normal, we can skip a few years. We still are at the point where we're examining you to make sure there are no big cysts or anything on your ovaries every year. However, your paps can be intermittent provided they're normal, but we need to have at least 3 normal ones before we go to intermittent.
You've got to have a benchmark.
You got to have a benchmark, and we check your human papillomavirus. We can do that, and we know if that virus isn't present, the likelihood that you will get the cervical cancer is low. Also, we have 2 different vaccines that we can give
Which
to young
have been
people.
a little controversial.
They have.
But as people understand about
Right.
them, it's just like taking a shingle shot.
Exactly. You give hepatitis vaccines to get in school, and that's sexually transmitted. I think the parents didn't like the idea because they knew that human papillomavirus was transmitted sexually. But that's the whole point, is we want boys and girls to have that virus before they even think about doing something like that, so that their chance to spread it is gone.
It almost just becomes a routine thing like anything else, or we're preventing it.
Yes, we want to eradicate cervical cancer because it's just devastating. And one thing I will say is that almost everyone we find with it, they have a history that they hadn't had a PAP 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, and that's, and when you stop to think about why they didn't, it's really just excuses. It's not really reasons not to. And the other thing, oh, I'm sorry, you dropped your. The other thing I want us to talk about is when a person is discovered with one of the cancers, that's always such a devastating blow to them when you just say the word cancer. How do you, as a physician, lead them through this process and help them make decisions on how to be treated?
Well, the first thing is to tell the news, and I'm an upfront type of person. I say, this is what your results say. And as much as I can, a lot of times when we have the first result, we don't know how far it is. But I'll tell them as much as I know. And then the next step is to guide them to the cancer specialist, whether it be breast or gynecologic or general surgery for colon cancer, whatever we find. The next step is to refer them to the person who is going to be the one who treats them.
The specialist
the
in that
specialist
area.
in that particular area of cancer. And then what I try to do is, as much as I know, I'll tell them this is what's going to happen along the way. And you come and see me anytime. And then sometimes if there are things like breast cancer, I may mention different support groups they can go to, different things that they can get for support in terms of wearing the sleeve on their arm to prevent the arm from getting large from what we call lymphedema, because the lymph nodes have been dissected. So we try to do the support all the way along as they come in for their obstetrics and gynecology visits, even though they're being seen by the specialist.
And so your relationship continues with them even though they are referred to another specialist to take care of that particular thing, because they still need to come back to you for their regular other kinds of health issues.
Yes.
And then I want us to talk about, as they get past the stage of childbearing years and go into menopausal, and then the difference in the medicine of treating a patient that's a geriatric.
There's a huge difference. People are living longer. We've lost a little bit of our longevity, probably due to obesity, but we're still living, particularly as women, into our 80s. So we want a good quality of life. So bladder issues may come into play, hormonal issues, libido. We want to be able to maximize people's enjoyment of life. So we find that we're not only screening, but also offering treatments that can help the person have the maximum quality of life.
And you know, just like in medicine, things are changing so much, and there's so many aids to help the older person that's having leakage, that's having bowel, inconsistent bowel movements, and those kinds of things that aid them in their daily life. And so it's not anything to be ashamed of that you've reached this age where some things are just wearing out and not working as well as they used to. But your friendship, your relationship with your patients helps you then to be directed into these areas. But the other thing that bothers me is the how do you as a OBGYN discern about mental health or Alzheimer's or some of these other things that hit the older population?
Well, when we do that full history, first of all, just in talking with the person, memory issues come up, and we can see where there are deficits when we do the exam. And if the person doesn't have a general physician or needs a neurologist, then oftentimes we'll be the one to make that referral, because sometimes the gynecologist is the only person that the woman is coming to see. So we end up kind of being a little bit of the gatekeeper. And
you're like a family practitioner.
Sometimes we do.
For that particular
Sometimes
person.
we do. We find blood pressure, we find diabetes that people didn't know they have. And so our job is to kind of shuttle them to the right place, but really more than that, have the general knowledge to be able to pick it up.
And one of the things that you, as a black woman, is seeing is that there are also ethnic differences that Hispanics have, whites have, different European populations, black populations. So are you treating those? I mean, what is your training to treat those when we're talking about global societies now instead of, everybody just alike?
Well, that's a huge issue here because we do have a large Hispanic population, and so we do have now within our training programs for both physicians who are finished and physicians in training, more cultural awareness programs. We are so lucky at Texas Tech that most of our staff speak Spanish, and so
are multicultural.
And are multicultural.
We're going to have to take another break. We're going to come back and continue that subject because it's really an interesting subject. See you in just a minute. Okay.
Stay tuned. West Texas View will be right back.